You know, when I was nominated to be URJ chair, I really looked forward to chairing a biennial in 2013 in San Diego. Didn't exactly work out as planned. I want to thank all of you particularly for all the support and encouragement you've given me this week. It's meant a lot. As Eric said, I stand here today as a member of 3 different Reformed congregations in North America: Temple Shalom of Chevy Chase, Maryland, Temple Sinai of Washington, D.C., and our 3rd congregation, which is the one I want to tell you about, because it says so much about our Reformed Jewish future. Those of you not from this area, Frederick, Maryland is a community about 45 minutes outside Washington. For many years, it had one conservadox synagogue. 8 years ago, 6 families brought up in the Reform movement got together because the local synagogue was unacceptable to them. As my daughter Jamie, one of the group, put it, she did not want her daughter, I might add that's my granddaughter Sarah, I'm a little prejudiced. She did not want Sarah to grow up in a religious environment where she could not participate fully and equally in all aspects of congregational life. The group set out to establish a Reformed congregation in Frederick, Maryland. Now, this group of families in Frederick then put in countless hours to start a congregation. And as they did, our movement sprang into action to help them. URJ representatives were there on an ongoing and frequent basis to provide advice and support as to how to get organized and work through the numerous issues that developed along the way. Local rabbis came to Frederick to lead services. A congregation in the area lent the group a Torah. Other congregations lent prayer books. Educational curricula were provided by the URJ to aid the group in starting a religious school. Hebrew Union College provided the group with a student rabbi who subsequently became the congregation's permanent rabbi. What do we have now, just 8 years later? Congregation Kol Ami, a URJ member congregation with over 150 families and growing. My wife Helene and I are proud to be members. Now, Congregation Kol Ami can teach us many things about why all of us are here and work as hard as we do to support our movement. Do we have problems and challenges? Yeah, of course. The world is changing around us. The economy is severely stressing everyone. Congregations must adapt and change. The union must adapt as change. All of us wrestle with those challenges, and we can become frustrated by the fact that we sometimes disagree on the solution, or even when we can agree on the solution, we can't implement it as quickly as we like. But if you feel at all frustrated, all you need to do is look at this biennial. All you need to do is go to one of our camps on Shabbat. All you need to do is to do what Helene and I did a few weeks ago and go to Hebrew Union College and spend the day with the wonderful students at that institution. All you need to do is to go to Israel or around the world and visit a progressive congregation or engage in so many other activities so that you can recognize, as did those 6 families that got together in Frederick, that Reform Judaism is the voice of the Jewish soul, and that a movement based on equality, innovation, welcoming, social justice, and a host of other important values has been and remains the wave of our Jewish future. Now, Congregation Kol Ami also teaches us something else. It shows us our movement at its best. No matter what problems we face, our movement is there to support our fellow Jews. As a result of a partnership between the families in Frederick and our movement, there is now a vibrant Reformed congregation in Frederick where none existed before. Finally, Congregation Kol Ami teaches us something else, and we can never lose sight of this. To express their Reformed Jewish identity for themselves and their children, the families in Frederick decided they needed to form a congregation. They recognized, as do we all, and as Eric has spoken about so eloquently, that it is through the congregation that we express our Jewish identity and experience Jewish community. I was fortunate, as Eric mentioned, I saw on a first-hand basis the incredible role that congregations play in the lives of the Jewish people during the years when my wife Helene was the executive director at Temple Shalom. Now, many think of congregations as a place where there are, religious services Friday night, bar mitzvah Saturday morning, and religious school on Sunday. I know from observing Helene's work on a day-by-day basis that congregations do countless other things 7 days a week. The congregation is simply not a Jewish supermarket where people come just to purchase different services. It's far more than that. It's far more than that, and it has to be. Whether it's making good times better, easing pain in bad times, showing people that there is a community that supports them in times of need, speaking out on issues confronting the community, engaging in social action, or a host of other things, the congregation is the place for the enhancement of Jewish community and identity in good times and bad. In other words, the congregation is the rock on which our Judaism stands. Now, the same thing's true with the URJ. To be sure, when the union does something for congregations, it must do it with excellence. But just as with the congregation, I do not view our union as the place simply where congregations come to purchase services. The URJ is and ought to be the organization that enhances our Reformed Jewish community and expresses our Reformed Jewish identity in North America and throughout the world. As I see the URJ, our primary goal should be to do things that individual congregations can't do for themselves, or to act where we can be far more effective when we act collectively. Whether it be our exciting new campaign for youth engagement, which we just adopted by unanimous amen, our camps, educational curricula, social action, outreach, a host of other things. The URJ has an important, no, a vital role to play for our congregations and our movement. And that is simply why every one of us in this room is here, to be a part of a union for Reformed Judaism that supports and nurtures Reformed Judaism and our congregations. The way the movement rallied to those 6 families in Frederick should be replicated in every way that we can to reach out to our young people, 20s and 30s, parents, empty nesters, you name it. We need to make our congregations and our movement meaningful in the life of every Jew. Now, as I assume the position of chairman, I want to take an opportunity to add my voice to those who have praised Rabbi Eric Yaffe for his service. I got to see Eric very differently from almost anybody else, because for 8 years as the union's general counsel, I saw him in the privacy of an office. In my private law practice, clients frequently wanted to know what the law required them to do, which most lawyers understand to mean, what's the minimum I have to do to avoid getting into trouble? What especially impressed me about Eric was that even when legal rules might allow us to do something less, Eric's focus was always on the right thing to do. The same moral strength and courage that we see from Eric when he stands up here, I saw when he sat behind his desk in his office. What mattered to him was what is right. And it's been a privilege for me to work with, but more importantly, to learn from him. And I don't want this opportunity to pass by without saying a few words about my predecessor, Peter Whitehorn, who I wish could have been here. Peter's a dear, dear friend. He was the perfect chairman for the extraordinary financial times our union confronted, and he saw us through some very, very difficult times. Peter's in cyberspace listening. Let's tell Peter how we appreciated him. What I take the most comfort from is in knowing that Peter is pledged to remain closely involved in the work of our union as going forward. He's stepping down today as chairman, and he's already got 2 major assignments to start in on Monday. I assume the position of chairman of the board with the goal of doing everything I can to strengthen and support the congregations in our movement. Acting in partnership with Hebrew Union College, the CCAR, the Women of Reformed Judaism, the Men of Reformed Judaism, ARTSA, and all of the other participants in our movement, this must be all of our primary objective. And in meeting this objective, I must tell you I'm particularly looking forward to working with the revitalized Conference of Presidents of our congregations. Close interaction with this group will give our union an opportunity to connect even better with the leaders of our congregations and to better understand and serve their needs. I also take great comfort from the fact that we have a wonderful group of dedicated lay leaders at the URJ. You need to understand, the lay leaders at the URJ are all people who rose to positions of leadership within their congregations before they came to the URJ. In other words, our lay leaders, when they get here, understand congregations. They are aware of the pressures and stresses facing congregations. And most importantly, every single one of them are as dedicated as I am to working with and supporting our congregations. But what I'm especially looking forward to and sharing the journey that lies ahead is the chance to work with Rabbi Rick Jacobs. Since the announcement of his appointment, Rabbi Jacobs has focused on deciding what we should be doing in the URJ in the years ahead. In approaching these issues, I need to tell you about three things that I've been particularly impressed about. First, you just saw that earlier this morning, Rabbi Jacobs recognized the need to have capable people both from within and from without the URJ so that he had in place a management structure to advise him. First thing that he did was he appointed a very broad-based transition committee of lay and rabbinic leaders to consider the difficult issues that confronted him. He reached outside the URJ management structure and brought in Rabbi Jonah Pesner to serve as his transition director. And since his appointment, he has focused on developing a senior management leadership team who can help him move forward. The result is we now have a superb management team in place, ready to hit the ground. We have Rabbi Jacobs, we have Rabbi Dan Freelander, who many of you know, I suspect all of you know. We have Rabbi Jonah Pesner, who some of you just met, and we have two people who you haven't met and you will meet in the months and years ahead. Barbara Seidel, our new Chief Operating Officer, and Mark Pelevin, who many of you know from the Religious Action Center. Mark is taking on a new role. Mark will serve as Senior Advisor to the President. I want to tell you that I think all of you should be comfortable that our URJ is and will be in very, very good professional hands. Second, Rabbi Jacobs made certain that the new goals and priorities for the URJ were not being decided by a small group sitting in a closed room. Instead, the transition process has been an open one with participation from many, many people in every corner of our movement. We've reached out to over 1,000 people. And what this has done is it has assured that the new URJ will reflect the views and needs of our Jewish world. Third, this is what has impressed me about Rabbi Jacobs the most. We were at a meeting one day, and he said that in confronting the difficult issues ahead, some people think that we must choose between having our head in the clouds or our feet on the ground. And his comment to the committee was that he rejected that choice. And he rejected that choice in confronting the issues for our movement. Yes, we need to do both, he said. In order to manage and run the URJ in our congregations and help our congregations, we obviously need to have our feet on the ground. But Rabbi Jacobs was clear that we always need our head in the clouds, since we should never lose sight of our spiritual purpose and the core values that guide us. It's this combination of feet on the ground coupled with spiritual purpose that most excites me about the chance to work with him in the years ahead. So let's get going. My friends, strap on your seatbelts. A new ride is about to begin as we start to reimagine our union and confront the issues ahead. Rick, I want you to know that every one of us in this room, and I hope every one of us outside this room, is excited by the promise of your leadership and will be there to support and help you as we move to the new URJ. So, my friends, it is my great honor and privilege to present to you the next president of the URJ and leader of the reform movement, Rabbi Rick Jacobs.